I want to talk a little bit about my experience playing Dying Light 2. The folks over at Techland gave me early access to the game, so thank you for the review code. I have been playing a ton of this game, but I've also been consuming a lot of Pokemon, and when Pokemon came in, I got this just a couple days before Pokemon, the code for Pokemon, but Pokemon came in, I had to kind of, because it's already out, I had to kind of put it on the shelf and play more Pokemon so I could review that for you guys. So I haven't completed Dying Light 2 Stay Human, but I've played a lot of it, and I've got a really good idea of the systems in place. And essentially what you're getting at the core of the game is you are obviously squaring off against zombies. You're dealing with people that are trying to, live in the ruins of civilization. There's an apocalyptic event just like in the first Dying Light game, and people are infected, and there's a tremendous amount of ferocity between the humans, but also you've got these undead characters that are coming out after you and trying to kill you. And so that's sort of like the ever-present environmental threat that everybody has to face, but you're also dealing with the person-to-person struggles and the faction struggles and the turmoil. And one of the things that they tried to do with Dying Light 2, because everybody, I think, was pretty impressed with the gameplay and the flow of Dying Light 1. It's really become a tremendous sensation over the years. Lots and lots of players out there have stayed with Dying Light 1. It still has a huge fan base. And I think what they wanted to do with Dying Light 2 is work on the story and work on the character development. And, they've worked with developers that have worked on Fallout titles and stuff, and storytellers. A great big emphasis on writing for this game. And it's clear when you're playing the game that not only is this an action-packed experience where you've got parkour abilities and you're able to jump and run and that's Rosario Dawson there, by the way, but there's also been a tremendous amount of effort to make us interested in the people that populate this sort of dystopian Dark Ages kind of new world that has erupted after this massive infection that has crossed the land. The problem with the game, though, is that it's cluttered. It's filled with a little bit too much, and the storytelling is, it's kind of front-loaded, and you're meeting all kinds of people, and there's a lot of barbarism. Your character is also having flashbacks and thinking back to some brutal stuff that happened to him as a child, him and his sister. And so there's a revenge mechanic in there, but then it's also cluttered with a whole bunch of side missions and a whole bunch of characters that are, nattering away and talking at you. And one of the best things about the first Dying Light game was that it wasn't really a story. It had a story, but it wasn't, people weren't playing it for the story. People were playing it for the fun of the experience, the jumping and the killing of zombies and the parkour and all that stuff. It was just so fluid, and all of that is here. So the core of the game is still crazy amounts of fun. I just felt like we would get going and then we'd stop and we'd have this long cut sequence and we'd go back and forth with these different characters, and it was before I could really get a sense of whether or not I cared about this moment and their travails and their needs and wants, because obviously what you do in the game is you get sent out on missions. You're solving problems, you're finding characters, you're finding things and bringing them back to the bazaar. There's people backstabbing each other, and there's all kinds of controversy, and you get sort of locked up in the drama of everything around, and all you're trying to do is just like solve your dilemma and wipe out the a-hole that you want to see killed, and so a lot of stuff kind of gets in your way, and people will jump you and try to kill you, and you kind of have to deal with that. And the combat in the game is much more melee focused. That's not really a projectile shooting type of first-person shooter. This is really a up close and personal kind of experience all the way through. And so, it's a little bit like Mirror's Edge in a way, all of the running and jumping and climbing, which is the best part of the game by far. But all of the combat and all of the sort of face-to-face interactions that you're going to have with the different characters is very visceral and bloody, and you're going to be bashing people's heads and slicing heads off using clubs and bats and axes and things like that. And it's okay. I mean, there's a physicality to it that I enjoy, but it feels a bit spazzy. And, you're obviously having to deal with your stamina. You can see a little stamina meter down at the bottom there. And so you're kind of focusing on trying to maintain that balance of being able to swing and take out everybody before your stamina runs out. You've also got, other things that you're building along the way, other crafting that you can do in the game to increase your skills in combat and increase your skills in parkour. You're also finding these different kits that will give you more health or more stamina, which is very, very needed because you feel very wimpy as the game sort of opens up and you can only climb for a little bit. And this is all about verticality and staying above the hordes and away from the zombies. And when you're doing that, it's crazy fun. When you're running away and being chased by, with speed and with ferocity, that's where the game kind of lights up. It's really, really fun that way. This is a game also that deals a lot with shadow and the sort of day-night cycle of the game as well. You can run around in daylight and it's a little safer because obviously you can see the enemies and stuff, but when you're out at night, all of the zombies that have been sleeping during the day in some of these buildings, because you can go into lots of these buildings too, and it's beautiful interaction. It's all sort of real time. You're floating into and out of obstructions and buildings, and you're encountering all kinds of humans and dealing with them. You're saving characters and stuff like that. There's a fluidity there that's incredibly impressive. But of course, you can't see very far unless you turn the light on, and some of the zombies will see your flashlight and come after you. So it's a nice kind of balance. And you'll be sent out on all kinds of missions, like this one right here is you're climbing up a windmill to bring some power to the different area, and you create a safe house for yourself. And so, it's loaded with interesting content. This feels a little bit like Far Cry when you're climbing some of the towers and stuff. Some of these things are familiar to Dying Light 1 players or players of other games. Like, this is a game so loaded with systems that you've seen reused and implemented across the gaming industry. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody borrows from everybody else. It felt a bit to me like it was, there was a lot of love for the Fallout franchise and the Elder Scrolls franchise, and the Dying Light devs wanted to create something that evoked that level of storytelling, but it's not that tuned, and it's not that sort of, it doesn't bring you in with that same polish and craftsmanship. That's not to say it's not crazy fun though, like the core of it. And I'm just at the point right now where I feel like the training wheels are off and I have a lot more freedom, and there's a lot of gameplay that just sort of happens as you're cruising around that will legitimately startle you and scare you and keep you on the edge of your toes. And I appreciate that very much. I mean, I have been having a very good time with it. There's also cooperative play, which isn't active on the game, the copy that I have yet. They've got a day one patch that's coming. There are some issues, some bugs and stuff like that, but I can tell you that the presentation and the production quality is pretty remarkable. I'm loving the music and the sound effects. I've been genuinely startled by some of the sound effects in the game, and I am having a good time with it. I don't have like a full concept of where we are going with all of these different disparate elements with the storytelling and these different alliances that I'm making and the different characters that I'm meeting, but I am enjoying it for sure. It's a big game, and it's, I certainly appreciate that we're going into and out of construction spaces, these giant buildings, so flawlessly and effortlessly and beautifully. It's really well crafted. So I'll come back with a full-on score. I think what I've played so far, I'd probably go into the 7.5 kind of area. It's entertaining, but it's a little messy. So yeah, sort of this in this review in progress, I'd probably go at around a 7.5, but we'll see. That might go up, especially as the patches come in and I get a little bit deeper into the content.